According to the Washington Post, the headline reads, a judge says detained Georgetown researcher cannot be deported for now. The arrest of Badar Khan Suri, who DHS, Department of Homeland Security, said was spreading, quote, Hamas propaganda, close quote, is part of an increase in Trump administration detention of people with legal status. So welcome to the conversation. Welcome to the program. Let's get this conversation started. This article is from the Washington Post, written by Dan Rosenzweig, Zift, and T.O. Amos. A federal judge on Thursday ordered that a Georgetown University fellow in the United States legally, who was detained by federal immigration authorities, cannot be removed from the country pending the outcome of a lawsuit seeking his release from detention. Federal Judge Patricia Tolliver Giles in Virginia's Eastern District did not rule on the Trump administration's broader efforts to deport Indian national Badar Khan Suri, who was apprehended earlier this week for what a DHS spokesperson said was, quote, Hamas propaganda and promoting anti-Semitism on social media, end quote. Federal immigration authorities have detained a Georgetown University fellow in the United States legally on a work and study-based exchange visitor visa, according to the researcher's lawyer, part of a ramping up Trump administration arrest of people with legal status. That has included scholars at other universities who've opposed the president's foreign policies. Indian national Badar Khan Suri, a postdoctoral fellow specializing in peace and conflict studies at Georgetown's School of Foreign Service, was detained outside his home in the Roslyn neighborhood of Arlington, Virginia, by Department of Homeland Security agents, his attorneys told the Washington Post. Suri was eventually taken to U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE detention, in Louisiana, where he is now awaiting a date in immigration court, said his lawyers, one of whom has filed a lawsuit in Virginia's Eastern District Federal Court petitioning for his immediate release. DHS spokesperson Tricia McLaughlin alleged on X that Suri was spreading Hamas propaganda and promoting anti-Semitism on social media. She further alleged that Suri, who was admitted to the country on a J-1 visa reserved for scholars and professionals working for a U.S. employer, had connections to a senior advisor to Hamas, an apparent reference to his wife. A U.S. citizen who once worked with the Gaza Foreign Ministry and whose father, Ahmad Youssef, is a former political advisor to the now deceased Hamas leader, Ismail Haniyeh. Suri's attorney, Hassan Ahmad, said Suri has not committed a crime. Now, here's a photo right here of Badar Khan Suri, a postdoctoral fellow specializing in peace and conflict. So let's take a look at the gentleman right here real quick. All right, let's get back to the story. Suri's detainment comes after several arrests of scholars in recent days on alleged charges of advocating violence and terrorism. Last week, Department of Homeland Security agents arrested Mahoud Khalil, a Palestinian protest leader at Columbia University and green card holder who had also been taken to Louisiana. President Donald Trump had accused Khalil and other pro-Palestinian activists of engaging in pro-terrorist, anti-Semitic, anti-American activity, but a federal judge temporarily blocked that deportation. First Amendment attorneys have said that Khalil's arrest over charges that federal officials have tied only to his activism was unconstitutional and could have uniquely chilling effects on free speech. Writing in an op-ed in The Guardian earlier this week from detention in Louisiana, Khalil called himself a political prisoner and said, "My arrest was a direct consequence of exercising my right to free speech, as I advocated for a free Palestine and an end to the genocide in Gaza." Trump said on his Truth social media platform last week that Khalil's arrest was the first of many to come. We know there are more students at Columbia and other universities across the country who have engaged in pro-terrorist, anti-Semitic, anti-American activity, and the Trump administration will not tolerate it, the president said in his post. The Department of Homeland Security followed through on that promise by arresting two more Columbia University pro-Palestinian protesters who are also now being forced to leave the country, the agency said Friday. The first student, Rajani, some of these names, my goodness, I'm trying to pronounce them. Sarani Vesan, a citizen of India, left the country on her own on Tuesday after her visa was revoked on March 5th for advocating for violence and terrorism, the agency said. The second student, Liqua Cordia, a Palestinian from West Bank, was arrested by immigration officials out of Newark for remaining in the country after her visa expired in January 2022, the agency said. A Brown University doctor was also deported to Lebanon Friday after her cousin won a restraining order to keep her in the country. DHS officials alleged she had attended the funeral of Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah. Ahmed Suri's attorney called his client's arrest in the wake of those incidents beyond contemptible. Let me ask you a question here, because I'm reading this article. So let's get this straight. The climate of anti-blackness that's running in America right now, running throughout America, nothing's being said about it. Nothing's being done about it. There's an all-out attack on black people for our accomplishments, attacking our ancestry, attacking our ancestors, the accomplishments of black men and women who serve bravely in the military are being attacked and they're being eliminated and written out from the pages of history like they tried to do with slavery and tried to pretend. I remember reading many years ago in one of the textbooks in school, when it came to the issue of slavery, they showed a picture of a slave in a cotton field picking cotton with the depiction that these were indentured servants who voluntarily chose to work. That's an outright lie. The whitewashing of history when it comes to black people never seems to end. They're not going to erase our history and pretend that the accomplishments, the endeavors, and the hard work that our ancestors did who came before us. Listen, you can have white pride, you can have white nationalism, you can have white MAGAism, you can have all that stuff, but you're not going to trample over us as a people and think that we don't have a right to exist here in this nation. It was our grandmothers and grandfathers and great-grandmothers and grandfathers who were whipped, raped, molested, butchered, separated from their families, forbidden to speak their own language, from sunup to sundown, out in those cotton fields, picking cotton, young girls being raped. How do you think all these light-skinned people got here in America? From miscegenation. Who was engaging in it? The slave owners were. They were having sex with the daughters of the slaves. So as much as you all try to rewrite history and try to write us out of history, we who are alive know the history, the oral history and the written history, and we're going to keep it alive. Now back to this article from the Washington Post. And if an unaccomplished scholar who focuses on conflict resolution is whom the government decides is bad for foreign policy, then perhaps the problem is with the government, not the scholar, he said Wednesday. Sunni's arrest appears to be based on the same section of the Immigration and Nationality Act that federal authorities have used to attempt to deport Khalil. Mac Lawton, the DHS spokeswoman, said on X that Suri's activities and presence in the United States render him deplorable under his obscure, rarely cited provision which grants the Secretary of State to move to deport an individual whose presence in the United States could have potentially serious adverse foreign policy consequences. So notice everything is always done through that website. You know why? Because it ties into the base of the administration. That's the only way he can reach them. And there are mass demonstrations and marches all around this country. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, what a waste, made such a determination in Suri's case on March 15th, McLaughlin said. ICE did not immediately respond on Thursday to a request for comment on the detainment news of which was previously reported on by Politico. When asked for comment, a DHS spokesperson pointed to McLaughlin's post on X. Let me show you a picture of Badar Khan Suri and his wife. Now, Suri's wife, Mafesi Sila, is a first-year graduate student in the School of Foreign Services Center for Contemporary Arab Studies. Salih is from Gaza. In addition to her work with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs there, she was a researcher at the Qatar Embassy in New Delhi and has also previously served as executive director at an Indo-PAL Foundation, according to her Georgetown biography. Ahmad argued in the court filing that Suri was detained because of his wife's Palestinian heritage and the couple's political beliefs about U.S.-Israel policy. The couple has been the subject of multiple articles in recent weeks that have brought them into public focus. The articles allege that in addition to their family ties to Hamas, they have cheered on or defended the October 7 attacks on Israel. The Israeli embassy in the U.S. further spread the allegations, calling Salih a threat to Israeli and Jewish students, which their attorneys deny. The couple live with their three young children, inside a high-rise apartment building in Roslyn. Suri's apprehension occurred after 7 p.m. when he was on his way back from an iftar dinner, the meal Muslims at the end of a day of fasting during the holy month of Ramadan. When reached by phone, Suri's wife referred a Washington Post reporter to his lawyer. So there you have it. Right now, it appears that the deportation of Badar Khan Suri is temporarily put on hold. Never surrender, never quit.